Oh, I think it did. Hello, everyone. This is the Unapologetic Geek Tug Chat, whatever you want to call it. I like that, Tug Chat. I think we'll call it that. We're gonna keep going with creature features today. This may or may not be the last one. I haven't fully committed either way yet. We'll see what our panelists think. Um, Unfortunately, Harold Scott will not be with us today. He decided to go on vacation and not take us or something. Loser. So maybe every once in a while one of us should just like have a really serious political discussion in our heads just to make up for his absence.
There we go. There we go.
I can
And
argue
also,
with myself. I've done it before.
yeah, there we go. And also, unfortunately, Sarah will not be here either. She's having some serious dental issues that make me uncomfortable just thinking about them. So yeah, so it's just the three of us, and we will get through this. Again, with the more loose style where we only cover a couple of movies, but since there's only three of us, we might get 2 or 3 or 4 rounds. Who knows? Just depends on how much we blather on endlessly. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and shout out the people in the chat. Daryl Johnson was here about an hour ago. Hello, Daryl. He's looking for Mr. Pickles.
Oh, well, actually, he's right over there in the kitchen, but we'll see if he joins us.
To the Nazgul's March. Is that for, I mean, Lord of the Rings, obviously. So that's pretty cool. He's obsessed with Mr. Pickles. He really wants to see Mr. Pickles.
Retreat.
Pickles.
Retreat. I have that song stuck in my head now. Win the battle, lose the war.
Danny
Thanks,
Staten
Daryl.
says, greetings from South Carolina. Greetings from St. Louis and Florida and Cape Cod.
All those coastal places.
Yes, exactly. St. Louis. I guess it's the coast of the Mississippi. Does that count?
Give it time. Give it time. With the rising sea levels.
Few more years, man. Few more years.
Every year, I actually do send a Christmas card to our realtor simply because she got us the one house in the entire area that never floods. Because of the way we're situated on a hill just the right way, all the floodwaters just pass us by. It's nice.
Awesome.
While all my neighbors are drowning,
Well, that's not fun.
And hi, Tracy. Good to see you, as always.
Blah.
Let's see, Sean Ennis. Oh, wait, channel member Tracy. I'm trying to do this Dave thing where I always announce channel members. Sean Ennis. Hello, how are you? Who else we got? Vim Vander Straighten is here as always.
What's up, Vim?
VV.
Channel member and Patreon Indy is here. So we have our fact checker, which is always good because we are always full of crap. And that's it for now, but as more people come in, I will say hi. If I notice, sometimes I forget that there's a chat. It happens. But I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to get started with one of my absolute favorite creature features, because the premise is so ridiculous, and it's a William Castle movie, and I love William Castle, and of course I'm talking about The Tingler, Vincent Price. The idea is that if you're scared enough, there's an invisible creature on your back that, it's been a while since I've actually seen the movie, but like somehow through some kind of experimentation, he gets the thing off and it runs havoc in a movie theater at one point. And for some reason, Vincent Price takes acid, like literally the character, not the actor, takes acid in the movie and freaks out. It's great. And this was a William Castle, so there was a gimmick in the movie theater, and the gimmick in The Tingler was that there were buzzers underneath a couple of the seats in the movie theater, so that during the scene where the Tingler is running through the movie theater in the movie, and you hear people shouting, "Oh, there it is! It's over there! It's over there!" Occasionally, people's chairs would start buzzing, and people would like freak out, scream, and jump up. And according to William Castle, people would have heart attacks, and there was paramedics on staff. But that was all publicity. That never happened. I mean, they had people dressed up as paramedics in the lobby just to freak people out and to sell the illusion. But it's all good fun. But yeah, I love The Tingler. It's a movie that my dad used to talk about and I'd never seen before, and I thought he was high. I don't know. Like, it sounded so silly and stupid. I didn't get it. But then when I finally did see the movie, this movie is great. It is one of the quintessential 50s creature features, and everybody should see it. I love it. Everything about it is fantastic.
That's actually the amazing thing about Vincent Price, consummate professional. No matter how silly or far-fetched or insulting to the audience the premise of what he was doing was, he did it with such intensity and fervor that somehow he sold you on it. And you know, literally, I can't think of a movie he did where he phoned it in. He was always that amazing intensity. And The Tingler, I believe it was some symbiotic relationship. I believe it was almost like the Morel from
Yes, it was something like
Auto.
that. I really should have
Right.
watched it again before talking about it, but yeah, something like that.
Well, again, it's so far fetched you don't need to.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
some exposition that doesn't make sense or add up, but just go with it. But yeah, the idea of basically a pre-Triassic insect which feeds off horror emotions that we all seem to have, and if it got loose, havoc would ensue. I mean, how can you not have fun with this? And it even looks ridiculous. It's just this thing with a million legs.
Yeah,
And
it's
you know,
it looks like it's made out of paper mache because it is.
yeah. And William Castle, I mean, the man was a genius. You know, I don't know. You couldn't do the whole buzzer in the seats thing today. It would be considered
No
simple
way.
assault.
Right.
But I mean, the man really was a genius and an amazing self promoter. Mant was the movie, the one that you actually have a walk in, right?
Right, I have a
Yeah.
cameo in the movie. Well, the movie's not Mant. Mant is the movie within the movie. The movie's Matinee. Yeah, where
Thank you.
John Goodman basically plays William Castle. I think he's got a different name, but it's William Castle.
And again, it's not like a documentary by any stretch of the imagination,
No.
but you really get a feel for what the man was like through this character, and it just again, how can you not have fun with this movie?
Oh, Lobo Grease is here. Hello.
Lobo.
And like you said, Vincent Price, consummate professional. And a lot of people don't realize that Vincent Price wasn't even into horror. Like, especially at the beginning of his career, it wasn't like his thing. He didn't really want to do it, but he discovered that it worked for him. He had that niche and he just ran with it. He did. He put his 100% into every performance, no matter how ridiculous. And even in The Tingler, you can tell he's taking it seriously. The movie's not taking itself seriously, but he's taking it seriously, which makes it just makes it that much better. You know, I love Vincent Price. Native
never
of St.
seen the
Louis,
movie.
by the way.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
I've yet to see that movie, unfortunately. So it looks interesting though.
Oh, it's fun. It's like, I was really hoping there was a time in the late 90s, early 2000s where they were remaking a bunch of William Castle movies. I think it was Castle Rock Entertainment or something like that. And they did 13 Ghosts and they did The Haunting, or not The Haunting, but Haunting of Hill House or something.
Yeah.
And they were gonna do The Tingler, but then they never did because the first two weren't that great anyway. So I was really hoping they would, and I was hoping that it would be the one that would be good because third time's a charm. I mean, 13 Ghosts. I liked it when it came out, but now it's completely unwatchable. It's got that like early 2000s, late 90s hyper editing, cutting every like fifth of a second. It's oh god, it's migraine inducing.
Yeah. House on Haunted Hill wasn't.
It was
I
better than
tolerate
that.
one, but it was better.
Yeah.
But yeah, 13 Ghosts. I just like. Are you serious?
Mhm.
There's one thing about reboots, remakes, whatever you want to call them. They have to have some amount of love for the source material, no matter how bad that source material was. And that was the thing about the whole reboots from this like reboot mania. The people making the movies generally didn't even see the original. They just said, "Here's the premise, run with it," and it was really sad.
Yeah,
because
what I
nothing else
didn't
is new.
understand about that with the Castle Rock Entertainment was that it was started by a couple of different people, but one of the people leading the charge was Joe Dante, who absolutely loves William Castle, but he didn't actually make any of the remakes. Like, why didn't he take charge? It would have been better because Joe Dante, good director who knows how to handle schlock. I mean, Gremlins, American Werewolf in London. I mean, Joe
Mhm.
Dante's great. I don't know.
Very much so.
Hmm.
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
It's the Hollywood machine.
basically, yeah. So okay, that's enough on the Tingler. Thresh.
Well, since we're talking about Vincent Price, I'm actually going to go out of order. By the way, oh, one thing. By the way, I've completely lost the thread. I can't remember which of my films I've talked about, which I haven't.
It's fine.
I feel like Benny Hill. Go to Britannica, see what I wrote. But what I did was I came up on the fly. I came up with a few new ones I know I hadn't talked about. And the one I'm going to open with, speaking of Vincent Price, is going to be The Fly.
Ah, nice,
Ah.
excellent.
The Fly.
The original or
I
the
mean,
okay?
Help me version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, when people think of The Fly, all anyone ever remembers is that extended scene at the end where the man fly is stuck in the spider web. And oh, by the way, and spiders, they tend not to pussyfoot around. It would have been one of
Yeah.
my earliest memories as a kid. I was like probably 4, and we were down this like beach house, and wolf spiders used to build their nests under the deck. And sicko kid that I was, I once took an ant and dropped it in the spider's web, and that thing flew out. Plunk. So you wouldn't have this extended help me, but you do, and it works. And again, the rest of the movie is actually really solid. I mean, The Fly was maybe not an A picture, but it had a good budget, it had a good script, it had a great cast. But again, that iconic image of the man fly going, help me, go away. Ugh," it stays with you. In fact, that much like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the imagery of it I was familiar with before I actually
Same.
saw the movie. It was a sci-fi trope, even to people who didn't know what they were referenced to. And in the first movie, they get a little hokey down the road because the makeup effects, they didn't have as much of a budget. But the man, did I say Fly Man before? I'll do Man Fly for this one. When the guy comes out and he's got the reveal,
The
where he
mask,
has
the whole like
Yeah.
fly mask. Yeah.
that was really really good.
It looks
and when
good.
it's an amazing, and that could have been done so poorly, but it's really really good. And in the end, where the spoiler alert, where the press is about to crush him, and he's actually fighting his own instinct to try, because the fly part of him wants to get out and he's trying to stay in because he needs to be destroyed. I mean, it's a really 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 amazing movie. And again, when you consider just how small the creatures in this creature film are and the impact they have, it's just amazing.
No, I love The Fly. It's one of my favorites. And yeah, another great Vincent Price. And Vincent Price isn't even the main character. He's
No.
just he's a secondary character. He kind of takes over at the very end.
And
The
he
main guy
bookends
is what's his name? Felix Leiter.
I can't think of it either.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head. He died a couple years ago.
Hedison.
David Hedison. Yeah, that's
David
it.
Hedison.
Thank you. We got there.
Took us a minute. But
Yeah, I had known about the Cronenberg remake long before I'd ever seen the original, and like I love the Cronenberg remake. It's a great Cronenberg movie. It's gross. It's disturbing. It's disgusting. It's not even remotely the same movie. Like,
Way different.
and I always thought The Fly would be like this 50s really hokey, cheesy creature feature kind of movie, not nearly as gritty or as interesting. And then when I finally did see it, I realized that this is actually a very thematically dense and interesting movie that deals with like issues of euthanasia and all kinds of other stuff. And you're watching a guy slowly lose his mind as he's like turning into a fly, but it's not in the way Jeff Goldblum does. It's in its own way. And I don't know, I find it really fascinating. And I love the reveal of the fly mask. It's probably my favorite part of the movie. I think that's what should be more iconic than the end. I mean, the end is also iconic, but I don't know. It's great. That's all I have to say. It's a great movie. What about you, Damien? Have you seen it?
Have you seen it?
I have seen clips of it, but I have not seen the entire movie. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that because I have always wanted to watch it, but it's one of those things where I just never got around to it, kind of thing. So,
Right. Well,
but
hi,
yeah,
Keith, by the way.
the whole like the help me part at the end. Yeah, that's yeah. Everybody knows that one. So,
And yeah, he originally wants to like teleport his cat or something. It's been a while
Mhm.
since I've seen it. And the cat just like runs away from him. Good cat.
Oh, and just
Smart cat.
little factoid. They said it in Canada to explain the fact that they all have French names. Apparently, the original story, it wasn't Pierre Boulez. Was it Pierre? No.
No,
But
wasn't
it was
Pierre
but it was written in French. So they said, well, we'll set it in Quebec to explain why everyone has a French name. Why didn't they just change all the names to more anglicized?
yeah,
It's still beyond me. But that's why it's set in Canada.
I may be
interesting.
wrong. I don't want to say it in case I am wrong. But the guy who wrote Shogun, what was his name?
James Clavell?
James Clavell. He worked on the screenplay, I think. I might be
Oh,
wrong.
because he's not French.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. He was a script consultant for a great many things.
I'm just double checking.
Please.
I should just ask Indy. He'll do it. Yeah, James Clavell wrote the screenplay. Yeah. And yeah, Pierre Boulez wrote Planet of the Apes, of course.
Yes. But not this. There were other French science fiction writers. Jules Verne, for one, who also did not write this. I'm pontificating again. I'm sorry.
Oh, they're talking about it being an AIDS and allegory, and a lot of people accuse the Thing, not David Cronenberg, but John Carpenter's The Thing remake of being about AIDS. It's not, because the AIDS epidemic hadn't even really started when that movie was written.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with Rabid.
Yeah,
Which,
Rabid, which is Cronenberg. Yeah,
yeah, Cronenberg had this thing about
disease.
contagion.
It's just like his thing.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if there was a history of venereal disease in his family or something like that, like the English royalty. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry, but but he seemed obsessed with. I mean, because let's face it, Rabid is really it's a I don't say love letter. That's gross, but it's really an allegory of venereal disease.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
And the scene with the bassinet haunts me to this day.
Ugh,
Well, that's another
sorry.
conversation.
Flashbacks to Cronenberg movies. Yeah, he had some weird obsessions. He still does, but not nearly as bad as it used to be. Like back when he was making that movie where Jeremy Irons plays twin gynecologists. Okay, man.
It's a great movie, but yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
that
don't
was
go
based on
watching
a
his
real story.
Crash thinking it's the Academy Award winning Crash. David Cronenberg's Crash is a very different movie.
Yeah, he's had some interesting movies for sure. That's
Well, it's funny. Rick and Morty came up with the term Coronenberg,
Yep.
Yes.
meaning a
Yep.
world destroyed. I amended that to Coronaberg during the shutdown because Massachusetts was one of the first places hit. So, in a sense, Cronenberg did loan himself to the pandemic culture.
And Cronenberg also French Canadian.
really
Getting back to the French.
no wonder
Yes.
he's so disturbed. Anyways,
That explains a lot. Bon temps roulé, nos amis.
oh, I love the
Bon,
Rick and
bon
Morty.
grammar at Quebec.
I love the Rick and Morty Cronenberg world and how it came about, and then they keep going back to it. They like seem to end up back there a lot. And it's just like, anyway.
Me too,
Oh.
Vin. That's actually one of my favorite Cronenberg movies. I absolutely love Existence. I think it is sorely underrepresented. Not enough people have seen it.
I have not. I should.
It's
I am
great.
a fan of Cronenberg. I have to be in the right frame of mind to watch his movies. I really do.
Yeah. It's for special occasion. People who've seen Existence will get it.
What was that one?
Oh, I thought you were speaking of
Um,
reverence.
what was that one that I Videodrome. That's one of my
Videodrome,
favorites. Yeah, yeah.
classic.
Always love that one.
I always forget that one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's probably his best known work. I always
Where's,
forget it.
where the guns and his, anyway.
It, like glues to his hand.
Yeah. And it's like grows on where he can't take it off. Yeah. Anyway.
People have asked me to review that on my channel. I'm like, are you trying to get me demonetized? I can't.
Yeah, really.
That movie.
That's another thing.
Disturbing.
His works are sick. No offense, but they are.
And his adaptation of Naked Lunch was interesting too, but
I can think of two
Two
things wrong with that title.
The best jokes.
Isn't that where the term Steely Dan comes from?
Is it?
I think so.
I wouldn't. I mean,
think-
yeah,
I
probably.
think that's where the term Steely Dan comes from the band Steely Dan.
Oh, I didn't know
I-
I didn't know he did Scanners.
Yeah, he did
Oh, yeah.
Scanners. I've covered
Oh.
that. I was able to
Oh.
cover that one without getting demonetized.
Yeah. Well, that one's not that gross, really. I mean,
It's
aside
just the
from
head explosions.
Yeah, the
that's
head
it.
explosions.
And that's like a meme, so like you can
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah. So. Oh, awesome.
So,
Yes,
Tammy,
it
you
does
got a movie
have
for us?
Oh, do I have a movie? Yes, I
Yeah. I feel so bad when it's sort of talking over what should be your spot.
do. It's quite all right. We were just talking.
We're
It's all
bantering.
good. It's
good.
cool. Let's say it's cool.
Well, that's all we ever do is banter.
Yes. I'm gonna go with one of my favorite creatures, and more of a comedy musical, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yay!
Yeah. So again, I'm bringing back
Speaking of the dentist.
yeah, really. Some of the, just the again, like in our last episode, I brought up like, man-eating plants, and here's again the man-eating plants
Yeah.
from another world. So, but yeah, I love that movie. It's because it's fun and it's not really scary, really. I mean, but it's fun. I'm not a huge musical fan, but I mean, the songs in that movie are great. So, it's a love story and it's a murder mystery kind of thing at the same time, kind of stuff, and all of the above. And so, yeah, it's a good movie. I like it. And you got Rick Moranis in it. I mean, Steve Martin. I mean, even
Candy.
John Candy shows up in there. You got Jim Belushi. I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, good cast. So, and of course, Steve Martin does a really great job as the dentist in that.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's fantastic.
The sadomasochistic or the
Hey, could
sadist
you help with
dentist.
the... No, I guess you couldn't, could you? Like it dawns on him. Oh yeah, you're trying to kill me. I get it
Mhm.
now.
Oh, who was it that played the patient? And wasn't it
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray? That's right, Bill Murray. Yeah, Bill Murray was in there too. Yeah. Oh.
And he really undershines the Jack Nicholson.
Jack
patient
Nicholson from the original,
in
yeah.
the original. That stole the movie, in my opinion. But Gay Lussaire.
But I mean, I love Nicholson too in the original. But
In the original, yes.
Yeah.
Nick Nicholson's performance was absolutely amazing in that one, When he was like reading the magazine.
yeah,
Don't stop now.
the one thing the original had that wasn't that I missed in the remake was Dick Morris just eating flowers for some reason. That was so random.
Miller. Dick
Miller,
Miller.
Dick
Bruce
Miller.
Lee,
Oh.
Just
Yeah,
eating the
that
dandelions.
was so random. It was like just, and the fact he keeps referencing to it, like, pardon me, like when he's talking about the plant, probably inedible.
Roger Corman was a weird dude.
Well, just that initial scene too, when he comes and he buys all the flowers, and Mushnik's like, "Here, I'll go wrap them for you," and Bill goes, "No, it's okay. I'll eat it here. I'll eat them here." And Mushnik just sort of stops and goes.
And then for the rest of the movie, he's just kind of there all the
There.
time, just eating flowers.
Flowers.
So good.
Oh,
But
and Audrey Senior, she was married to Ken Berry.
Oh, really?
From F
Mm.
Troop, among other things. Little
Okay.
fun fact.
Cool.
I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I had no idea there was an original Little Shop of Horrors from the 1960s. I
It's
thought it
not a
was just
musical. Like the musical was based on the original movie, the
Okay.
Roger Corman movie, and then the remake was based on the musical. The remake is better. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say that.
I always thought
straight
that there
up.
was
Yes.
just a musical on Broadway that then became the movie later. I didn't know there was a movie, so I might have to go watch that. So
You do.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's
been
free.
Public
Like
domain
a lot
for
of
like 20
old-
years.
Yeah, a lot of old
Yeah.
Corman movies are all free. So yeah,
1960.
And it's a really, really fun movie. It's funny, my dad saw it when he was a kid and told me about it. And then I caught it in like a midnight movie, hosted by Lenny Clark years later. I'm like, oh, this is the one my dad told me about. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a fun movie. It's a farce, but it's very funny.
and yeah, it's
Gotcha.
probably only about an hour because Roger
Oh,
Corman
okay.
movies. Yeah, and yeah, like Vim said, it was only shot in a couple of days because again,
Yeah.
Roger Corman. That's what he did. He pumped those things out.
Well, he was making another movie while they made it. They had some downtime. He's like, quick guys, let's make another movie.
Well, yeah, that's
Hey, we
exactly
got a
that's
free
how we
weekend.
worked.
Let's throw a movie together.
We got these sets, and they're gonna tear them down tomorrow. So why don't we make a whole movie in 24 hours?
Why
We'll
not?
celebrate this movie by making a movie. You know?
Exactly. That's just what he did.
That's funny. Oh,
Hmm.
But no, the remake, the musical. I think that was Joe Dante again.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'd be willing to bet on that. I believe you're right.
it's fantastic. It is better than the original. I love the original for its own kitschy Roger Corman-ness,
mhm.
but like the remake is definitely the superior movie. And yeah, I'm not a big musical guy, but I do feel like after you've seen the remake and then you go back and watch the original, you do feel like something's missing because there's
Yeah.
no musical numbers. Like
It's like,
it
when are they
seems
gonna
like
burst
part
into
of the
song?
DNA. Yeah.
Like the producers.
Mhm.
You know, when you sit down and watch the original producers when they were in Estelle, the musical numbers are lacking, and it does. It
Mhm.
feels like there should be music in here. It's
Right.
weird. Funny you mentioned that. Yes, I can see that.
I love the scene in the plant or the flower shop where Audrey 2 starts singing. You know, it's like,
Right.
go get it. You know, that whole scene. And you know, anyway, it's a great movie, and some really memorable songs. It's funny, and you know, just love that one. I've seen it probably, you know, a couple dozen times at this point. Watched it with my daughter, you know, a bunch of times, and she loves it. So yeah.
Where do you stand on the alternate ending where it takes over the world?
Interesting take. I mean, there's a whole set of scenes that they edited differently. Like Audrey dies, and one of them actually dies.
Right.
You know, and them actually taking over the world is an interesting take on it. It's actually, I think it's important to know that could have happened. You know, because it's like, otherwise it's just a plant. You know, I mean, they kind of hint at that he's trying to take over the world in the theatrical version, but like, you know, the alternate ending, it's like it just kind of brings it home. It's like, this is what could happen. They can grow as big as, you know, giants and take on tanks and stuff, and it's almost like a scene out of War of the Worlds, the original War of the Worlds, when they on that whole alternate ending when you're watching it. Anyway, that's what it reminded me of. So
I read somewhere, speaking of
Mhm.
William Castle, that had they used that alternate ending with the giant plants taking over in the original premiere, they were going to have a giant plant pop through the screen and kind of go, ah!
Nice.
and sort of get the buzz about the movie going. But when they decided on an alternate ending, that made no sense whatsoever. So they scrapped the idea. It would also been very expensive. Those screens aren't cheap. You
yeah, I
know,
was about
but-
to say those screens are expensive. Yeah, I did like in the theatrical ending how they had the little tiny baby plant in the garden at the very end there. He's smiling, yeah,
Mm.
hinting at a Little Shop of Horrors 2 that, you know, of course, never happened. But,
Never happened.
you know,
Audrey 2 did have 2 lips. Wah, wah.
mhm.
Wah,
Lips.
wah, wah.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
yes,
Zip
there is
too.
a musical based on The Fly, the David Cronenberg version of The Fly. It's
Really?
I've
Chinatown!
I've seen images. It's messed up. I don't get it. But like because what it is they have to put a guy in a big suit. Like he
Mhm.
just looks
Mhm.
he looks all brawny and it
Mhm.
doesn't look right at all. It looks really weird. And like I said, I've only seen still images. I haven't seen footage of it. I have no idea what the music is like. But yeah, I have
Mhm.
seen this. I researched it when I was doing my video on The Fly, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what is this madness? Why does this exist?
And who came up with it? You know what would make a great musical?
David Cronenberg's The Fly. What?
Somebody thought it would make money.
But now getting back to Audrey too, like I like to think of okay, this is a deep cut for Godzilla fans. I like to think of Godzilla versus Biollante as a sequel to Little Shop of Horrors because
Ah.
Godzilla fights a giant plant monster.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
No, that is. I can definitely give you that one. Yes, I
Yeah.
can definitely.
It's perfect. Oh, I guess that means it's my turn again.
Yep, your turn.
Let's see. Well, I mean, Sarah's not here, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. I wanted to talk about Star Trek First Contact. This is the one where the Borg are in it, and I'm counting the Borg as creatures. Because Star Trek First Contact, it's
Okay.
structured like a modern day creature feature, like your Aliens style creature feature.
Mhm.
And this is the only Star Trek movie where it kind of tries to lean into some horror tropes. You've got like the Sam Raimi zooming shot at somebody like going up into a turbo lift looking around, or not a turbo lift, but like a like a corridor or something.
Mhm.
And the Queen is this like almost Giger-esque version of the Borg.
Mhm.
And Alice Krige, who the actress who plays her, is amazing. She is still the best Borg Queen. I don't care what you say. She's the only Borg Queen for me.
Agreed. Yeah.
As a nitpicky Trekkie fan, I don't like the idea of the Borg Queen, but the way they executed it is so good, I forgive it.
Yeah, that never sat well with me either because it's like, aren't they supposed to be,
It
100%?
defeats the whole
yeah,
thing that
like,
makes the Borg scary, right?
yeah. They're supposed to be a hive mind, and then they've got a queen that's directing. That's well, I can kind of sort of get that, but kind of like ants,
Right.
But anyway,
Or Alien.
or alien. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But I like what the movie did with that character and had
Mhm.
like Data's temptation of the flesh, like evolving Data's character to like actually like feel flesh, and it's like psychosexual and
Mhm.
as much as Star Trek can do, I thought that was very well done and very cool and very interesting. And when I saw it in the theater, I did cheer when Data stands up and says resistance and is futile and hits the warp nacelle and vaporizes all the fleshy things in the room.
Yep.
I mean, come on, that's a crowd pleasing moment.
Mhm.
I also don't mind what they did with Picard's character, turning him into Captain Ahab. It's a little over the top, but it's Patrick Stewart going, "The line must be drawn here, no further." That's
He's got to
come on,
catch.
how
his
can
wet
you
word.
not love that?
If only he had a peg leg and an eye patch.
So yeah, I thought I did not like Generations. Even when it first came out, I was like, this is kind of
It's a little hokey.
it's
yeah.
a bit it's not great, and I
Mhm.
didn't like the way they killed off Kirk. It didn't make sense to me. I thought Malcolm McDowell was kind of underutilized as a character, and just, the movie because it was made so quickly after the show, it still felt like the show, just like they changed the lighting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know the
Yeah.
production value is better.
It was like the last episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Basically,
wasn't it?
yeah. And if you look at it that way, it's not
Yeah.
bad. It's fine. It's just it didn't sell me on the idea that The Next Generation could be a movie series. But First Contact is
Yeah.
one of the best Star Trek movies, and I think it really sold that idea. I don't necessarily know that they followed through. The ones after that aren't that great. They're not as bad as Generations, but they're not.
Yeah. Nemesis kind of sucked.
Yeah, in hindsight, I mean, Nemesis
Yeah.
had some really good eye candy though. Like
It did.
the two
it did,
ships
it did.
colliding and all the
Yeah.
debris in space and stuff. That was really cool stuff.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry. My bad. I'm not thinking Nemesis. I'm thinking of the one before that one.
Insurrection.
Insurrection or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Insurrection.
that was
one-
another one that just
Too.
it just felt
Yeah.
like an episode. Yeah.
Yeah. That one did not, make me feel like I wanted to go see another Star Trek movie after that. So Nemesis was all right though. Nemesis was okay.
But
It was
I
a weird
must
premise
confess,
though. So
It was a weird premise.
yeah.
But
The
Tom
last two
Hardy as
films
a
all blend
Picard
together.
clone, that was kind of cool.
And here we are talking about Star Trek movies. But,
Yeah. Because Star Trek.
but yeah, I agree that I guess you can see the Borg as a creature feature, almost like aliens, or something like that, where they're taking over the ship and dragging people off, and there's a few little minor like jump scares in there where you're just like, whoa, but at the same time, I don't find the Borg very scary. I've never
Not
really,
particularly. I liked the idea that they introduced in this movie and became part of the Borg lore from that point forward.
Yeah.
That like they have these little tubes, and once they touch you, they inject
The
you with
nanites
nanites,
start
and
to- yeah.
you immediately start assimilating.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool and visually
Yeah.
kind of scary, but not like scary.
Yeah.
Like Star
But
Trek scary.
It does bring up the point though. Why didn't they do that in the show? When,
I know, right?
They
Well,
had
budget.
every they grab onto you and then like whisk you away or whatever, or beam out with you. It's like, why didn't they just like inject you right there and like then leave you behind? It's like, you're a Borg now. You can assimilate the rest of the crew. We're leaving. Bye.
The Borg is one of those things that like it's such a good idea. It's such a like fantastic idea for a villain that like the more you show it and the more you explain the Borg, the worse it gets. Like the more you like strip away the mystique and the simplicity of it, the harder it is to make good stories around it. Like to the point that
Like-
the Borg just become a convoluted mess when you get to Voyager.
Like when they try to explain the Force.
Yeah, stop. Don't do that. Yeah.
It works. Go with it. Don't explain it.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you
fine
have
the
these
way it is.
microscopic things living in your body. No. Why did you do that?
Like the very first episode with the Borg, where Q is like, you have no idea what's really out there in space,
Yeah.
and just sends them far, far away, and you meet the Borg, and the Borg are this like scary thing that are so far advanced of humanity that they don't even stand a chance.
It's like
If
shields.
they
We
had just
don't care
left
about your
it
shields.
there,
Yeah.
the Borg would be the most horrifying thing in all of Star Trek, right? But then the more you introduce it, and like I said, the more you have to water it down to find ways to beat the Borg.
What was that creature from Voyager? Species one
Species
one.
X157, whatever.
Yeah,
number.
whatever,
Yeah.
from another dimension, from the fluid dimension or whatever.
Really terrible CG. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh, it was horrible. It was the 90s. It was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
Come on,
But yeah,
They were
shouldn't
trying.
have had CG.
They were trying.
They weren't ready.
A rubber suit would have been more convincing, but
Yeah.
but that was a horrifying creature too. I mean, speaking of like creatures, that one, because I mean, it
It was scary
hated the
looking.
Borg. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was scary. Well, I mean, it was just as far as like its technology and power and whatnot, it's like, no, screw you.
Right.
You shoot me with phasers, whatever. Doesn't bother me at all. But anyway,
Ehu.
Okay.
any
Anything else?
Yeah,
Moving
on.
I always wanted to see what would happen if the Borg like tried to assimilate the Dominion and like the the shapeshifters, changelings, and have like
Ooh.
changeling Borg. Like, what would that be? What would that be like?
would that even be possible?
I think that would be really cool. I don't know
Yeah,
how they would figure it out. Like maybe they're trying. Maybe they would like try to
It
like
would be like
assimilate
the T1,
things on like a molecular level and just like make everything
It's
uniform.
like the T1000 from Terminator.
Yeah, it'd be
the-
awesome. But
the
they
Borg
never
1000.
they never did that, unless they did it in some of the books, which they don't count anyway.
Yeah, they don't count anyway.
Who reads?
And the giant pudding that ate Tasha Yar. Yes.
Chocolate pudding that ate Tashi. I always thought it looked more like an oil slick.
It was an oil slick. Yeah,
or
that's
a
what she
tar
calls
pit
it.
or something.
Yeah.
A blancmange.
They mean to win Wimbledon.
I knew you would get that. I knew you would get that.
Okay, so
Uh,
Thrash. I guess that means it's your turn.
Me again? Oh, cool.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I'm going to do another science fiction franchise. And this time, as you notice, most of the things that I introduce into these conversations are things that I like. So it's easy for me to actually extol them. But I'm going to actually do something a little different. I'm going to actually tear something to shreds. Not the whole franchise, just this avenue of it. Look at the Star Wars franchise as a whole. They brought some amazing creatures to us.
Hmm.
But they also brought one of the stupidest creatures in American film history to us, by the way. And maybe I'm being a little harsh, but I'm sure on some level people agree with me. The Ewoks. The when I now and as
Hey,
I'm
come on,
sure
they
you
were
guys-
vicious little teddy bears.
exactly. In fact, if I remember correct, well, initially they were supposed to go to Endor, and it was going to be Wookiees because Ewok is actually a palindrome of Wookiee.
Right.
They were, and I thought that would be awesome sauce, so we could finally expunge the hideousness of the Star Wars Christmas special altogether and actually have a cool Wookiee homeworld. But no, at the last minute, and it was because of the obsession Americans were having with cutesy dolls at this point, the
Care
Cabbage
Bears.
Patch dolls, the Teddy Ruxpins, the well, you name it. So Lucas, because he hadn't made enough money out of this cash cow, he decided he wanted to make something a little more cute and marketable. And he
the
literally, as you
children's.
said, vicious teddy bears.
Yes.
And you cannot take these things seriously. I don't care how many Imperial Guard they kill. They're teddy bears with spears and a hang glider. And a hang glider that is not even aerodynamically sound. And you know what happens if you try to use a hang glider in a redwood forest? You hit a tree. It just the whole thing was so mind-numbingly. I thought I love Return of the Jedi. It wasn't my favorite of the franchise, but I absolutely loved it. It was worth waiting for. I thought it was a great story. I love the power dynamics. But when the crux of it is a battle with tribal teddy bears, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm having so much trouble accepting this. And some people actually got their minds around it. And to those of you who can, I am not knocking you. I'm glad. I wish I could see the world through your eyes. But then, just to make things even worse, this thing had a short-lived cartoon series.
Oh, it also
And
had
those
two
two
spin-off
movies.
movies.
Don't forget the movies.
Yeah, two spin-off movies.
Caravan
Well, I
of
just-
Courage and
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
got them
remember
in the
what it
other
was
room.
I'm actually going with the cartoon because I remember I was in college nursing a hangover one morning, and I put on the TV, and it was where Ewoks were brave and strong, and I'm like, no. I called a friend of mine later on that day. I was still hungover. I called him up and I said, "Have you heard about this?" And he thought I made it up. He didn't believe me. He thought, that there's old Bob, on the soapbox again. I go, no, this is a thing. They actually turned it into a Saturday morning cartoon. So for those of you who like the Ewoks, let's hear it.
I was a kid when that movie came out.
I was gonna
so,
say,
yeah.
like, I was exactly the right age, and
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi is probably my first memory of going to a movie theater to see a movie. So I cannot be objective at all. Like, I was the perfect age. I loved the Ewoks. I loved Wicket. I had a little Wicket at home. I understand your arguments, and I've heard all these arguments before, and you all make very good points. Yes, the Ewoks are pretty stupid if you think about it, but my brain is still like, I love Ewoks.
Especially coming on the tails of the Empire Strikes Back, which was like that's my favorite Star Wars movie of all time is Empire.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's
Everybody who is correct feels
yeah,
that way.
yeah, exactly. It is perfect. It is. And then you have like Return of the Jedi is like, so that's like the adult version Star Wars, and then you end up with kid version Star Wars. Star Wars for kids. But
You can imagine like the
yeah.
Wookiees, if they did the Wookiees right and made them like kind of scary, big hulking beasts doing exactly the same thing that the Ewoks do, but more seriously.
Yeah.
You could see that working.
Yeah.
But would that really even feel like Star Wars at that point? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it would.
I must grant you, I was 16 when it came out. I was at the worst possible
Yeah.
age. I was in my "that's so lame" phase. I was too
Mhm.
old to appreciate kid stuff.
That reminds me
Not-
of that South Park episode where you get to a certain age and everything just turns to.
Yeah. But I was too young to be open-minded about things.
Right.
I was like was it the Frantics, Boot to the Head?
Oh yeah.
Remember the and to my know-it-all nephew, oh, this is so predictable. A boot to the head. I knew it. I hadn't learned to actually accept things which push the envelope and just run with it. I couldn't do so. I was probably the worst possible age at the time. So I will grant that. So so the people who saw it and appreciated it as children, I'm more than this kid. Oh, and there's one thing since we're talking about the best of all Star Wars movies of all time, Empire Strikes. There's one thing about Empire Strikes Back, and I want to throw this up to you guys. But it's something that bothered me at the time, and this jumped into my head again just the other day. And I wish there was somebody at work It happened at work, and there was nobody at work I could talk to this about. But all right, so the Cloud City, of course, betrays the Empire, right?
Yeah.
And Lando Calrissian gets out of Dodge, right? What kind of horrible reprisals do the people in the Cloud City who are still there have to endure at the hands of the Empire, who at this point really want to make a statement? Has that ever been covered by anyone? Like what did happen to the Cloud people after
As
that?
far as I know, I have no idea, but I would assume they got glassed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say, vaporized from orbit.
And that should be on Lando Calrissian's conscience.
Yeah, that for some reason that always bothered me. I picture the Hawkman City, from Flash Gore, and it's like there's one problem with having a floating city.
It falls.
One inherent flaw.
This thing called gravity.
Mhm. It's horrible. Makes everything.
Although, judging by how Luke fell down the pipes, I'm not sure gravity works quite right on that planet.
I never thought of that.
It's
Ooh,
so weird.
That's another one. I never thought of
I think
that.
that was an air current thing happening.
Yeah,
there,
that's what
Get
my brain
sucked
told
into
me
the,
as a kid, but like it still
Yeah.
looks really weird.
Mhm. Agreed. But back to the Ewoks. The one thing I did like about that whole, because I thought even as a kid I thought the Ewoks were just a little bit out of place. It's just like we got all these kind of scary aliens and things, and then Ewoks, and it's like, yeah, okay. Other than the what was it, the God, what are they called, the ones on Tatooine that were
The Jawas.
Jawas. Yeah, I didn't think that they were. I thought they were kind of cute, but anyway,
Ding ding.
But
yeah,
in
exactly.
an eerie kind of way. I mean, they wore those
Mhm.
the cloaks, which is sort of like the unwritten collective unconscious things,
Mhm.
scary things wear, and they had the glowing eyes, and
Yeah, but they had cute little voices, and they were almost slapstick in their in their acting and stuff. The things that they did, it was just funny. They were kind of like for short periods of time almost comic relief. Yes, they were.
yeah,
They had ulterior motives. They were trying to steal droids and resell them for profit.
I like in the Mandalorian, the first couple episodes, you see the Mandalorian just going around vaporizing Jawas left and right. Like, it's so violent and
Quit stealing
insane.
I love how they're handled in troops.
But
Yeah.
the one
The
thing I liked about the
Okay, Mr.
Ewoks,
Friend.
or the one part of that whole thing, was when C-3PO becomes a god to them, basically. But why didn't they think that R2-D2 was also a god? I mean, did they think he was a trash can on wheels or something? I mean, what was? I guess
Well, 'cause they
the
couldn't
other one was
understand him.
golden, so huh?
Well, they could communicate with C-3PO. R2-D2
Ah.
they couldn't. R2-D2
Yeah,
would have been C-3PO's manservant.
Yeah, gotcha.
Kill his servant if he doesn't answer. Wait, kill his servant.
I just thought that whole thing was kind of cute, but then when they stopped like listening to God's telling them, "Hey, release my friends," and they're like, "No, screw you. We're having them for dinner." Literally.
At this point,
Anyway,
For those of
was
you those of you who have seen The Man That Would Be King, when they took you as a god, don't do anything to get them to backpedal on this.
the kind
Yeah,
of
I always
vision
thought
that-
of those things in Phantasm as evil Jawas. I always did think that because they
Oh.
look a lot like Jawas.
You're right. They kind of do. Yeah.
Well, if I remember
Interdimensional
correctly,
dwarf monsters. Yeah.
I think all are inspired by the demons from the underworld in, and I'm totally misphrasing the nomenclature here, but in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Wow, we're going way
Ah,
back.
yeah.
It's literally the source material for so much in Western civilization. It'll blow your mind.
Mhm.
But in the underworld, there are these cloaked figures, and they're very mysterious. And they're kind of going like
Mhm.
this. And I always thought that like there've been a lot of interpretations. I mean, the Grim Reaper himself wearing the same sort of hooded cloak, or the Demnos worshippers in Doctor Who. A cloaked figure is just a scary figure. Period.
Mhm.
Well, it's become like I guess a Jungian archetype. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Ooh, a Jungian archetype. Love it. Love it.
Well, Scott's
Um,
not here to bring out the psychology. So
That's true. So I have to mention Jung. I just have to.
The Young and the Restless.
Wah, wah. What was I going to say? Wow, you just threw me off with the Jung Restless. Well, since I can't remember what I was going to say, let me just go ahead and say hi to the Smartass Podcast and to Sarah, who did show up in the chat. She's here. Hope you're feeling better, really. We'll get you next week. Don't worry. We'll get you here. You showed up just in time to hear me talk about Star Trek, so your timing was very good. Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. Last time I mentioned Epic of Gilgamesh in a video, I mentioned it like offhand when talking about like apocalyptic fiction. I said that there was an apocalypse in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And then somebody in the comments wrote a doctoral dissertation about how wrong I was about that. So I'm a little salty about Gilgamesh.
You remember the demons in the
Commenters are
movie
so
Ghost?
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, when they
shadow
pull-
monsters.
The shadow,
yeah.
they're like look like little cloaked
That
figures.
freaked
that
me
just
out as
came
a
to
kid.
mind.
Yeah.
They come out groaning, making that noise.
Well, Vincent
Pull
Schiavelli
him
in
in
and
the-
of himself was always kind of creepy. No offense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's freaky. Yeah. He scared me as a kid as well in that movie.
Anyway.
Oh, well, Vim Vanderstraten, very good call round. I like it. Yes, Star Wars was inspired by The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. That was inspired by Jung. My oldest brother, he actually took a class in college about that, about Star Wars and about Joseph Campbell, and it was about the mythology of Star Wars or something. I mean, and I was floored because I was in high school at the time. I'm like, you can do that in college? You can study Star Wars?
How did I
in.
not know that?
I
How
don't know.
in God's name did I not know that? That bothers me. I am an virtuoso of inspirations to Star Wars, and I did not know that one, and I'm just ashamed of myself. I should.
Yeah, especially the early versions when he was like writing it as the Journal of the Wills and stuff. It was very much the Hero of a Thousand Faces. I mean, yeah, obviously, and also Flash Gordon and everything else. But
The Space Battle Cruiser Yamato, Hidden Fortress, Dune.
yeah. But like, if you actually like track in Joseph Campbell's book, if you actually track like how he describes the hero's journey, Luke Skywalker follows that to the T. It's like it's absolutely perfect. I mean, if you want to take a screenwriting 101 class, watch Star Wars. Like it'll get you there.
Don't they talk about that? Don't they talk about that in an episode of Rick and Morty where they're stuck on the train? And
Probably.
they
Yeah, I
compare it
think
to
they
a model train.
I think they
There's a
do.
bell ringing in my head, but it's probably just my tinnitus.
If it were possible to have a PhD in Star Wars, my brother would have it. My brother is the biggest Star Wars geek I know, and I know a lot of Star Wars geeks.
He should be
I
in the
even
comments.
think
He should.
the Sarlacc is a sandworm queen. That's why he doesn't move; it just stays there.
Ah.
Interesting.
So maybe Arrakis is really
Dune.
yeah. Maybe that's really Dune. Yeah.
Dune is also loosely inspired by Foundation. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would almost
The
have to be, wouldn't it?
general idea of the galactic. Yeah.
Empire.
Anyway.
Yeah.
but,
And Foundation was all about like people seeing the future and
Mhm.
blah blah blah. It just wasn't about drugs. That's all.
product of its time, I guess.
Yeah.
Or a time of its product.
But you know, you get to a certain age and you start to realize that every story is based on something else. Like, and that's not a problem. That's fine. There's no sin in being based on other things.
Was it Orson Welles who said, borrowing from each other is fine? It's when we start stealing from ourselves we should be ashamed.
Right.
Well,
right.
there's a lot in Star Wars that is based on Foundation.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Galactic Empire?
yeah, Trantor is Coruscant. You know,
Yeah, Coruscant is absolutely Trantor. Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
I'm sorry.
and just the whole idea of like eventually having a galactic empire with an emperor and a whole star fleet and so on and so forth and yada yada yada. But of course they're
Yeah,
the
as I
rebels-
have always said, good artists create and great artists steal. That's a quote from me. I made that.
Oh, yeah, who'd you steal that from?
Yeah, who'd you steal that from? Yeah.
I'm going to steal it. Tell you what.
There you go.
We'll keep it going.
Yes. And yes, in Star Wars they do mention the spice mines of Kessel. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
yep, they do.
That's an obvious call to Dune.
Yeah.
Well, it's my understanding Lucas wanted to make Dune, and Herbert told him to jump in front of a bus. He said,
And-
fine.
Then they
I'll
made
make
the
my
David
own.
Lynch Dune to capitalize on the success of Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. In
all
fact, I
comes
think I
around.
stole all that from you, by the way.
Probably.
I think you're the one who told me
I'm
that.
obsessed with how like this kind of stuff happens in
The
Hollywood.
success of both Star Wars and Alien spawned a whole genre of sci-fi movies that
I would also throw in
spanned.
E.T. Those three
And-
things like defined the 80s, basically.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But Alien, allowed for all of the sci-fi horror and, kind of stuff and that came after it, and Star Wars, all of the other, more hero-based sci-fi that was around. But yeah, and then of course
And they both had this like this grittier version of
of the
futurism
future.
and technology. Whereas like before that it was all, Logan's Run, everything's shiny, everything's made of chrome.
Yep.
Like the
It's all
Squidward future.
It's all white plastic and chrome. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But then George Lucas came around and everything's broken. He's got droids that are constantly having to be repaired. He's got walls that are collapsing. And then you got Alien where, the Nostromo is just it's a truck held together by spit and grease,
Yeah. And duct tape.
and duct tape.
And those really cool weapons were just some acetylene torches that they modified.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're like the coolest weapon of like 80s science fiction. I wanted one of those as a kid. I'm like, I'll make one. And my mom sent me my room. To this day.
But I mean, for some of that like that shinier science fiction, you did have your Steven Spielbergs who did,
Yeah.
Close Encounters, E.T. So I mean, it was still there.
Mhm.
But everything was also inspired by the grittier look of Ridley Scott and George Lucas. So yeah,
And I liked when Star Trek: The Next Generation came out. Going back to Star Trek here,
yeah.
you got the clean, pristine future of the Federation, and then like you look at a Klingon ship and everything's like the gritty, nasty, probably.
Well, I mean,
like,
it's the
bits of
difference
food
between
laying around.
It's the difference between Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2. Star Trek
Yeah.
1 was built in that shiny new future look, like trying to be 2001.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Trek 2, Nicholas Meyer came in and Harv Bennett came in and they said, well, let's make this a little bit grittier and more realistic looking.
Mhm.
And we know which one's better. As much as I defend the first one, I'm not going to say it's better than Wrath of Khan. No Star Trek movie's better than Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, Wrath of Khan's pretty darn good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my credo, that odd numbered films are not as good as the even numbered films.
Usually, yes.
Well, in the Star Trek franchise.
In Star Trek specifically, yes.
specifically.
Not counting the J.J. Abrams movies, because that throws the whole thing off.
Yeah,
The
No,
second
that's
J.J.
a
Abrams movie is terrible.
that's a different
just-
like universe or
six.
something.
The
different
Kelvin
timeline.
universe, yeah.
Yeah, different timeline.
I don't hate those movies. I don't like the second one, but They're not. I don't really count them as Star Trek movies, honestly.
No.
They're J.J. Abrams movies.
Mhm.
It's a re-envisioning. It's a reinterpretation.
Mhm.
It's like, the difference between the Three Musketeers. Well, just pick any two. They're two completely
Right.
different re-envisionings. Well, I mean, heck, they even reference the fact that I bet there's an alternate universe where the Vulcan isn't destroyed. Like, aha! So that's how they managed to get past everything in here. Is the fact that we're watching an alternate universe. Clever, clever.
Yeah, Star Trek 4 is funny. That was one of my favorites.
It's definitely the funniest.
Yeah.
Double Denos on you. I
So
said
I
that
did-
for years.
I did enjoy oh crap, what's his name? The Doc Brown.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, yeah.
Another Roger
Christopher
Corman
Lloyd as a
nerd.
Klingon in Star Trek 3. So
Yeah, he was a great
Yeah.
Klingon. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an amazing.
Cold, calculating, to the point, no games, I'm getting this done. And yeah. So and it's smart too, but anyway.
Probably my favorite Klingon before like the Next Generation DS9 era, where you get like Worf and Gowron and Martok. Some of the greatest Klingons ever.
Glory to your house.
You got to do the eyes.
Yeah.
I always had a weak spot for John Colicos from the original
Oh yeah, he's good too. Absolutely.
Quarter.
Yeah, I really don't
He
like
shows
them.
up again in DS9
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
a couple times.
Yeah. He also was Canadian.
Oh.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So that's just, that makes him awesome right there.
Well, Shatner was also Canadian. So
Exactly.
I thought it
He was awesome too. Come on now.
Yes, he is.
Or is awesome.
Don't tell that to George Takei though. He'll disagree.
There's a great story when the Canadian Broadcasting Company. I'm sorry if I don't know the correct name of it. When they were putting together the Star Lost, sort of an anthology series based on an idea by Harlan Ellison, who took his name off of it. Apparently, at the time, it probably still is. Apparently, Canada has a rule in broadcasting where you have to have X number of Canadian actors starring in the show. And they had to contact a number of Canadian actors who they'd all moved to LA trying to make it in Hollywood. And can you please come back and do this show? Fine, I'll go back to Canada to be on a TV show. It was actually a really cool story. Walter Koenig, John Colicos, a few others went back at least just to do this show.
You'd be surprised how many movies in the 80s and 90s were filmed in Toronto because of their pro film industry stance on things and taxes and permits and so on and so forth. They're like, oh, you want to shoot a movie here? Fine, yeah, we'll close down half the city for you. Whatever it takes. It's like the police academies. What was it? Short Circuit 2. Like all the Police Academy movies I think were filmed there, and or several of them at least, and a bunch of others. So but anyway.
Were they all a bunch of A pictures?
Eh.
A,
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 A.
you hoser.
There's
My
there's
favorite
a
is
mouse in my beer, eh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, eh?
Get off that Chesterfield.
no
Actually had
way.
an uncle that called it a Chesterfield. I was always like, why do you call it? It's a couch. It's like, well, that's an ottoman and that's a Chesterfield. They're named.
If I ever own a furniture store, it's going to be called Ottoman Empire.
Ottoman.
Of course.
Just be Ottomans everywhere. Every Chesterfield comes free with a free Ottoman here.
What are you talking about?
Exactly.
I like the Canadian submarine epic, Das Boot to the Head.
Das Boot.
Boot to the head.
Boot to the Head.
Boot.
But yeah, most countries have that rule where a certain percentage of the cast and crew has to be from that country. It's why we never got the James Mason Drax in Moonraker that we were supposed to get.
You mentioned that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. 'Cause
That
James
still makes
Mason
me
would've
mad.
been- Yes. He would have been... As you know, I'm a huge fan of James Mason. He would have been perfect.
It would have been great. The guy they
As-
got, the French guy, he's the actor's fine, but as
Fine.
Drax, he's
Very competent
he's
job.
nothing. He's a block of wood.
But James Mason played that subdued psychopath so well.
So
I swear to God.
absolutely. Anyway,
Hmm.
where were we?
James Mason.
Whose turn is it?
It's my turn.
Oh,
So we brought up the thing from another world a few episodes ago. So I'm
Absolutely.
going to bring up, because if just in case this is the last episode, I'm going to bring up The Thing from 1982, because
Excellent.
it's one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies out there, with a creature that is not, it's not, we don't really know what it is really in the end. We never see a final form of what it looked like in its native appearance or whatever. Yeah, state. I mean, we don't even know. It's like one of the questions I always had was, did it actually build that spaceship and fly to Earth, or did it inhabit another creature on another planet and then take its spaceship and fly and crash on Earth or whatever?
like in The Hidden.
Yeah. So because we don't know, we just know that this thing came out of the ice and started assimilating people, and then, got to the other camp, started assimilating them, and, in the end. But it's just that entire movie, the special effects for the time period. I mean, oh my God.
Rob Bottin, madman.
Oh, he is for sure. I mean, there was stuff in there like the chest opening up and the it's like,
And
yeah,
the
exactly.
spider head
the head
crawling
come,
away.
yeah, and the growing legs and the eyes. It's like, oh my God, that's awesome. So it was one of the early, like, real gory kind of sci-fi movies I ever saw, was that one, because it was like, it went from like movie theaters to TV.
Yeah, it was a flop because it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
going
it
up
was a-
against E ET.
Yeah, so they started putting it on TV to try to, make some more money, get some royalties off it and whatnot. So, and, so it was on TV like all through the mid to late 80s. You'd find it somewhere in the middle of the night, and on and through the 90s. So I probably saw that thing like a dozen times on TV before I ever got it on, tape back then, So, yeah, it's one of my favorites, just for the special effects. The story's kind of cool, and definitely that one is better than the remake from when was that, 10 years ago or whatever,
The prequel?
or not the remake, but the prequel. I'm
The
sorry,
prequel, yeah.
I couldn't get through it. I turned it off. I'm like,
It had some good ideas, and
I
it had
watched
Mary
it.
Elizabeth Winstead in it, but that wasn't
Yeah.
enough.
No,
They replaced all the practical effects with CG for some reason, even though they filmed it with the practical effects, and they just plastered CG on top of it. Why did they do that?
Why?
I don't
to
know.
hurt us. They did it to hurt us.
yeah,
Yes.
they did it on purpose to hurt us.
But it
They're
had
just
some
trying-
fun ideas. The whole, like, checking your fillings and stuff was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked the idea of using the Norwegian crew. I didn't
Mm.
like the idea that you had to have a white American savior in the middle of it. But it was Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and as we all know, I am in love with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So
Can't blame you there.
Does your wife know this?
yeah. She does.
She
She
loves
has
her
similar
too.
feelings for Brad Pitt, so it's okay.
Oh, okay, all right. So that's all right then.
Daddy issues? I don't know.
Well, nowadays, yeah.
Well,
But yeah,
oh,
had a,
classic.
you know,
Brad Pitt.
Classic Brad Pitt.
All right.
You know, from Cool World.
yeah. Classic from Cool World. Come on. God, that movie.
I wanted to love that movie so bad.
Everybody wanted to love that movie, but
Ralph Bakshi making a comeback. I mean, how
Mhm.
could I not love it? And I go, oh, this is how I could not love it.
It's
Mhm.
terrible.
because it was horrible.
Even as a kid,
I
I
mean,
realized this movie.
They played that thing on HBO like 3 times a day for like 5 years, trying to.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
But-
think I even went and I saw it again. Well, maybe I was too harsh the first time. No, I wasn't too
No,
harsh
it was
the
bad.
first time.
It was bad.
I wanted to love that movie.
I rented it from Blockbuster the first time I saw it, and I was like, yeah, I just wasted my $3 there. That was
It's like the short story Gooseberries.
Yeah.
No, I have to love it. I have to love it. No, I don't love it.
oh
You know. And the sad thing is, it probably isn't as bad as I make it out to be because I was so disappointed. I don't know, but yes.
so
But yeah, going back to the thing.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I like that it has that feeling of dread you get when you realize that you are, up the creek without a paddle, and like you realize like just how bad your situation is, and you've been in it for a while and you didn't know.
yeah,
That feeling is what this whole movie is. Like
Yeah.
that movie is just capturing that sensation of
yes,
you don't even really fully understand how screwed you are.
yeah. Until you get into it and you're like, oh, this is way worse.
This is really bad.
I thought it was this bad. No, we're way past that.
The only person who knew was Wilford Brimley.
I was about to say that. Wilford
Who's
Brimley is the only
amazing.
one that's actually like he knows how this game's played, and he's like, yeah, I'm not playing it. So
He actually steals the movie.
He
I think
does.
it might be his best
Yeah.
performance. I really
And
do.
people thought John Carpenter was out of his mind for casting Wilford Brimley in that movie.
I think it's
And
one
he's-
of his best roles, honestly. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And the one question that I always ask people is, at what point does he turn?
Mhm.
And it's really fascinating because when he shoots up the office, he may have already turned there, but no, that's where he's having the breakdown. He's having that we really shouldn't survive moment.
Yeah.
But then again, or is he? It can be played on so many levels, much like the game we've played on this channel several occasions. Are both Keith David and Kurt Russell, are they both rival things at the end? True
That's
or
always
false?
been my theory.
Yeah.
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 And it's a great theory. But is one turned? Is the other one turned? Are they both turned?
And they just don't know. Yeah.
You don't. I mean, it's a type of thing. It's a movie. You can go so many directions with it. You can actually. It's almost like Clue.
Yeah.
Where you can just
Who
you
killed
can
Colonel
make
Mustard?
a game, watch it from top to bottom with a different storyline. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And Damien, I gotta say, I absolutely love your premise, and I can't believe I never thought of it. Did this alien come from an alien race that had space technology? Or did some poor schlub alien from another planet just happen to land on this planet and get assimilated? And the thing, after it assimilated, took its spaceship and
Yeah.
came to Earth. Is he basically the space jockey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I absolutely that I've been like playing that over and over and over in my head. Yeah, because
Mhm.
why would an alien species that could shapeshift? Why would they need to create technology? So they might get around to creating fire,
Yeah.
But having interstellar space travel wouldn't be high on their priority list.
Well, they
So-
wouldn't need to worry about like digesting food or getting like bacterial infections because they just assimilated anything that's alive.
They basically are an infection. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
So
And-
that's
And apparently
great
they can
question.
build spaceships out of like coffee makers and spare
yeah,
parts.
yeah, like
So,
he starts
like,
and parts from the helicopter and whatnot. Yeah,
Right,
he was-
right.
yeah.
Blair's just building it under the ice.
So then if they
That's a tiny plot hole. I'll give you that much.
yeah
It
no
is.
they might assimilate the knowledge as well of the species that they
they would have to,
assimilate,
because
so.
I mean they can pass themselves off as
Mhm.
humans, as
Yeah.
not just any humans, but like specific humans with their
Yeah.
specific verbal quirks and knowledge
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, so when you get replaced, you're replaced. With
And I
Like,
like the idea that
all
they
of the
just
cells.
do that naturally instead of
Yeah.
going back to the original story where they do that through telepathy because
Mhm.
telepathy's dumb. But
Yeah, but in the 50s, people were obsessed with it. They thought that in
Yeah.
20 years we'd have telepathy.
it was
That
all
would
because
sit
of
on
Campbell.
Timberlands.
Campbell
Yeah.
was obsessed with parapsychology and
Mm-hmm.
telepathy and clairvoyance, and he insisted that every single short story that was going to go through him, which if you know who he is, basically every short story that was science fiction went through him
Yeah.
had to have some element of parapsychology or he would deny it. So like that's
Really?
why you see so much psychic stuff in like the 40s and 50s. Even Asimov had to
Huh.
do it, and Asimov hated it because he was a diehard skeptic.
I never knew this story. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The-
I'm going to
the-
steal it.
Yeah.
The other thing in the thing that kind of bugged me was the you know, the personal computer that they had that, you know, they could predict the you know, the spread of the virus or whatever you want to call it, and how quickly Earth would be, you know, completely overrun by this creature. You know, and then they have the little video game looking, you know, cells floating with the little simulation, you know. It's like, you know, my pocket calculator from the 90s was 10 times more powerful than that computer they were using, and it couldn't do anything like that. So.
I think they had a better computer, but unfortunately, McCready destroyed it by spilling whiskey in it.
Yeah,
The chess master.
That was the chess master. Yeah, the chess master.
Cheater.
Cheater. Oh,
But no, I like the way they set it up, the way they explain it as like a pathogen, like they can't even share food and they have to eat from cans and stuff.
And
I find it hard to believe that they're not all immediately infected. Like they may not immediately get assimilated, but I do feel like they all have it inside them, slowly changing them without even realizing it. So when you say like when did they turn, I think in some cases it's more gradual. Like it's not instantaneous. Like sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
well, I mean,
Which-
you know, there's
which
an
gives you a-
incubation period for any virus or
Yeah,
any,
exactly.
you know,
And I think that's what
bacteria
was
that's going
happening
on.
to Blair as he was like
Yeah.
starting to lose his mind, not only because he knew what was happening, but also because he knew he was changing.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gives credence to the ending where they're both
Yeah, where they're both the
Things.
thing. Yeah,
but even rival species of the thing.
right,
And
right.
that's something that I've always been intrigued by because this thing isn't a hive mind. It's it basically creates its own xenophobia. It creates a colony, but then that colony sees the other colonies as rivals. It's an amazing premise, and I'd love to know how a society of these things could work. Maybe they didn't. That's maybe why one came to Earth.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But it's just there's just so many ways you can go with it. It was
and it's-
years before its time.
It's interesting how, you know, on that same kind of, you know, thought process there, or line of thinking, you know, they also show how like multiple things can kind of join together, or at least hint at it in the movie with the dogs.
With the Blair
and-
thing at the end.
Yeah, and the Blair
dogs,
thing, yeah, that too. You know, so multiple things kind of can almost become one thing. So they do collaborate, but if they're not, if there's two that don't trust each other, maybe, you know.
Yeah,
maybe
if you
they
think of
would
it
be.
as like
Yeah.
Keith David and Kurt Russell are
Yeah.
both separate things, but they don't necessarily know each other or a thing.
Yeah.
They would still have that same exact paranoia that they had
Yeah.
as humans
Exactly.
towards each other.
It's like, are
So-
you trying to kill me, or am I trying to kill you? Or
and maybe they don't
But-
want to assimilate each other because then like they would lose their
Mhm.
individuality, if that's even a thing to
Yeah.
them. Like, I don't know. A lot of neat ideas. Like one of the great
Really
things
are.
about the thing is because it is so vague. It doesn't explain itself, and you kind of don't want it to. Like you want all that vagueness, and that's why we can still talk about the movie. Like what is it, 40 years later,
Mhm.
and not really have any concrete answers because the movie doesn't give you any. But it invites you to theorize.
Mhm.
And you can drive yourself mad trying to pick apart the plot of this movie. Like, who broke into the blood bank? If you like actually sit down and think about it, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
There's no way to figure it out.
It's a cool scene. It's
It's just a neat
like
scene.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, they killed the blood bank. Why? Why would they kill it?
Yeah. What purpose was there in doing that?
Well,
Yeah, anyway.
yeah.
But that's one of the things that makes it such a great movie is that you can do that. You can pick apart scenes. You can pick apart little tiny minute ideas like
Yes.
the key to the refrigerator that the blood was in. You actually see it change hands a few times.
Mhm.
And you lose track of it, and it's fun. It's fun to do that to this movie, and I could do that endlessly, and I have multiple times in the past.
I want to see it again now.
Yeah, it's such a great movie.
Penny Scott's on here to tell me where I can watch it for free.
Oh yeah, Scott.
Harold, you hater. Harold the hater, more like it. Mm.
I'm gonna message him as soon as we're done here. I'm gonna tell him the movies we talked about, and he has to find links and send them to me while he's on vacation.
That's his homework.
That's the price he pays for daring to go on a vacation.
Without us.
Looks like you have to pay for it no matter where you go.
Oh, of course you do.
Mm.
The Man
I
in
still
the
have
High
my physical
Castle
copies.
ended, what, 5 years ago? And I go, gee, I'm going to see if it's on these streamings. And nope. It's only available if you pay for it. I'm like, I'm not paying for Man in the High Castle.
Well, who filmed or who produced it? Wasn't it a Prime thing, like Amazon or Netflix? One of the two of them.
I'm not
I
sure.
think it was Prime, not
Yeah,
Netflix.
and it should still be available on Prime as part of your membership if you have one.
I think
have
you have
Prime.
Prime.
Yeah.
I have Hulu. And
Ah.
Hulu is like limited.
well,
but I'm like, come on. Why is this
Yeah.
not for free? You
Yeah.
know? Now. It's been years.
Well, I think any movie that's over 30 years old shouldn't have any monetary value left to it, as far as like, you know, you should be able to watch it for free, and if they want to make something off it, put some commercials in there, you know, or something. But
Do I have it on physical media? I'm gonna have to dig through my movies. I might actually have it. That actually happened to me the
I
other
think
day.
I have the thing on physical media, so you know,
Oh.
might have to watch it later. I have that and the prequel.
I
And
have
the prequel
yeah.
has only ever been pulled out of its case once. and then put
I use
back
it as a
in.
poster.
Yeah. Put back in its case and never to be watched again.
When I first started doing reviews on this channel, one of the first things I did was The Thing and The Thing from Another World. I did both of them, and then I did watch the prequel. This is the last time I watched it. I watched it right after that, just to see if my memory of it being terrible was correct, and it was. So
Yeah.
It is.
I haven't watched it again, but like you, I own it. I've only
Yeah.
like put it in the DVD player once.
Well, I buy a lot of used DVDs, and it's like I always wonder. It's like people sell DVDs. People sell, you know.
Why would you
Blu-rays,
do
and
that?
Why would you do that? I keep all of them in case
well-
I ever want to watch it again.
My collection got so big when all the
Mm.
like rental stores were going out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were like 5 different Blockbusters within like a 20-minute drive from me when
Mhm.
that happened, and I went to each one and got their like fire sale where you could get like 20 DVDs for $1 or something.
Mm.
So like I have so many DVDs from that. They all say like rental only.
Do not sell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, Tug, would you permit a slight breach in? Oh, by the way, Damien, are you completed with the thing?
Yeah, I'm good. We've talked about the thing. We're all good.
Would you permit a tiny breach of etiquette and let me go next? 'Cause I have one that goes very, very, very nicely into that.
Oh, go for
conversation.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I decided I wanted to go with a little-known cult classic from the '80s, The Stuff.
Ah,
Yeah,
yay.
And I've decided The Stuff does count as a creature. And because now, I'm guessing you guys have both seen it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been a
Several
long
times.
time. I saw it in the
Good,
80s,
good.
but
Yeah. Same with me. I saw it in the 80s. Yeah.
And I saw it in the theaters, and I wasn't a fan when I first saw it. I think I went into it with the wrong attitude. In fact, there's a whole thing. In fact, I actually review it on my channel. The thing was incredibly mismarketed, and I think that actually put it behind the 8 ball. But it's effectively Special Delivery was the name of the Hitchcock episode. It's actually based on a short story by Ray Bradbury, which is something like, "Hey kids, make money by growing mushrooms in your basement." But it's the idea of this material which comes out of the earth, and if you eat it, why you would eat something that just popped out of the earth? Well, we eat potatoes then. But anyway,
It's kind of
you
what we
eat it
do.
Yes. Where
Yeah,
was the
kinda what we
FDA in all of this? Is what I want to know. Where were the government safeguards against?
they talk
like,
about
you know-
that. They get assimilated.
It's in the movie, yeah.
when you
Mhm.
when you eat it, it assimilates you.
Mhm.
And talk about your hive mind mentality. It's exactly what it does. It creates a sort of hive mind, and you become enslaved by this thing, and have to do its bidding. And what's the guy's name? Danny Aiello. Danny Aiello plays an FDA agent
Right.
who's actually assimilated with his ridiculously oversized dog. And if I remember correctly, they had to shoot the dog from different angles to make it look even bigger and more imposing than it was. It's done almost like a modern noir film. Michael Moriarty, of course, plays this sort of corporate spy guy, and the movie really does say more about American consumer culture
Hmm.
than anything. In fact, they
I mean, it's
actually
pretty on the nose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
they hired actual commercial making firms to do the mock commercials in it. That's why
Yeah.
they look so realistic. Yes, but
Yeah,
just
it
the
definitely
idea-
looks like marshmallow fluff.
Mhm.
it does look like marshmallow fluff. But again, it's intelligent and it's creepy and it can move in this very
Yeah.
sort of almost like the Blob style. And there's even an implication that it's intelligent. There's a scene where the kid is having an argument with some of it, and the thing actually seems to be, pun intended, absorbing what he says. So the film really, really grew on me, and
Mhm.
I think it made an excellent companion to your conversation on the thing.
I think it goes well with the concept of the blob too, but
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
both of them. In like it almost kind of borrows from both. But yeah, the stuff is definitely intelligent, and it actually, like, if I'm remembering this correctly, because it's been years and years since I've seen this movie, but I've seen it like multiple times. My cousin like had a copy of it, and we used to watch movies all weekend kind of thing at his house. But anyway, it actually, like, if you eat enough of it, it actually like rots out your insides. You like basically become hollowed out and part stuff. You're basically a, you know, a stuff suit or a human suit for the stuff at some point. And you know, when the bad guys or whatever, the stuff people get, like somebody beats the crap out of them, it comes back out of them, if you know, and like tries to slither away and find somewhere else to be. But you know, I always thought it was just a neat concept that, like, the stuff just comes out of the ground, and it's addictive, and the more you eat it, you want more, and then it eventually just takes you over, you know. So and then it tries to return to the source if it ever comes out. So, but yeah.
Just like cocaine.
Yeah. Hey, it's almost you know, an analogy for, you know, the cocaine use problem in the 1980s.
Say.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because that stuff will rot you out too. So
I will let you know, Thresh. We did mention it very, very briefly when we were talking about the blob last week and you weren't
Yeah.
here. And
Really?
I'm pretty sure I said aloud, we can't talk about the stuff until Thrash is here.
mhm.
Thank you. But it's uncanny that I actually added that to my list. Excellent.
So,
Yeah, and it is definitely a creature. I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
it counts,
It moves on
absolutely.
its own. It's intelligent. You know, whatever. It's got motives to take over all of mankind, kind of thing. They're trying to they're gonna export it to other countries and stuff. Yeah.
And even when it becomes illegal, there's an underground movement trying
Yeah.
to make it resurge.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was at the very end, right? After they discover what's going on, and they
Mhm,
make
and
it
then-
legal. Then they have that little, like, you know, they show you that it's still around, and they're
Round.
still yeah.
The guy opens it up and
Yeah.
tastes it like
Yeah.
it's like a Coke sample bag, or even the corporate giants.
Yeah.
They have enough stockpile where they can mix it into a new product and call it the
Mhm.
Taste.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Taste.
even they're trying to figure out how to reinvent it and make more billions. Like, I don't know, like a cereal company. Oh, I don't know. Gee, people are reduced to eating us our product for dinner. Well, let's jack the price up then and make even
Mhm.
more money. Of
Hmm.
course, no profiteer would be that profiteering in this day and age. We're
No,
too
never.
altruistic.
Scott's not here, so oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
The oligarchy consortium.
Anyway, we're hitting the hour and a half mark, so I think I'm gonna call it. That was good. What do you guys think? Should we do it again, or should we change subjects?
Well, you know, we can always
I think
revisit it.
I have a lot more creature features. So
Okay.
I have
I mean,
a
we don't
lot more.
have
I have a
to.
lot more too, but I
Yeah.
think what we might be it might be oversaturation.
Mhm.
Perhaps we could take a little break and then revisit this later on.
That's an idea.
Mhm.
What do you think we should talk about next week then? We don't even have to talk about like a specific genre of movies. We can just talk about something else. Like, I don't know. I haven't given this any thought. It only occurred to me this morning when I woke up that I might want to change the subject.
Huh.
I don't know.
I hadn't given it much thought.
Yeah.
Something science fiction related.
Yeah, something science
Mhm.
fiction related because that's my brand. So I don't know. Think about it. Let me know during the week if you have any ideas, and if I come up with something, I will
Mhm.
obviously let you guys know. Until then, I guess we'll see you next week. Scott's not here to plug his Twitch and stuff, but go to his Twitch, Harold the Hatter. He does shows all the time: Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. I've got my Twitch up and running. On Thursday, I'm going to start playing RoboCop Rogue City, which I know nothing about, and I don't want to know anything about it. I'm playing completely blind, so that'll be fun. And I've got a video for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that should drop, the BBC version that should drop next week. Thrash, you have a show tonight.
I have a show tonight at 7:30. Oh, and by the way, at some point we are going to be. I am going to have a collaboration with Danny and Sarah. It's going to be sometime next Sunday. Fingers crossed if Sarah's feeling up to it, and we're going to have our first collaboration on. Well, little secret. It's something Bigfoot related. But join me today at 7:30 on my channel. All welcome.
I've also got to reschedule our collaboration on A Boy and His Dog. Now that the summer's over, I can think about it again. I'll put it on the schedule and let you know when.
Yeah, when I was going through my notes for today's show, I found my notes for that upcoming project. I'm like, yeah, we talked about that a while ago, and things just kind of got
Yeah, summer just kind of got away from me. So, like, yeah, I got to figure it out. I'll let you know. It'll be like in a month, probably.
super. Looking forward
Okay.
to it. Super.
So,
Awesome. Well,
never be ashamed of what you love, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Goodbye, everyone.
ciao for now.